Today we're going to make a recipe from Paul Hollywood's How to Bake book, but we're going to adapt it slightly. We're going to make his all butter shortbread, but we're going to coat them in chocolate. So let's see what we've got to do to turn some simple ingredients into these fabulous looking chocolate covered all butter shortbread. To make our shortbread, we need a few simple ingredients. 4 ounces or 112 grams of salted butter, 2 ounces or 55 grams of sugar, 4 ounces or 112 grams of plain or all-purpose flour, 2 ounces or 55 grams of corn flour, cornstarch, and if you're going to coat them like me, you want some good quality chocolate. I'm using milk chocolate, you can use plain chocolate as well. We need to combine our softened butter that's at room temperature, with our sugar. We need to cream that together to make it light and fluffy. You'll see the colour will change, it'll go from a yellow colour to a pale colour. You can do that with a hand mixer or like I'm doing with a wooden spoon. It takes a little bit of time either way, but it's not to be rushed because this is an important step. So after a few minutes the mixture starts to smoothen out, you lose the graininess from the sugar, and this is what we're dealing with. And as I say, I prefer to do this with a wooden spoon because if you used an electric mixer now, all this would be stuck inside the blades and you've got to start picking it out, whereas if you use a wooden spoon directly in the bowl, you've got everything you need in there. So then we want to sift our plain or all-purpose flour and our corn flour into the bowl. There we go. And mix that together. You want to get your fingers in there, start to bring this together. And it should make a stiff dough. When it comes together, we end up with a nice soft ball of shortbread. This really, if you think about it, is just sweetened pastry. So we don't want to over knead this, otherwise we will go from having a crumbly texture, which is what we want for the shortbread. Obviously we want that to be buttery and crumbly, but if we don't knead it enough, when we try to roll it out, we're just gonna fall to pieces. So you have to use a little bit of judgment, and you feel when as soon as the dough starts to go from being soft like this and it maybe a little bit elastic, that's when you want to stop. So I think I only need a couple of minutes. Just making sure I get everything from the side of the bowl. And I think that's going to roll out okay. So now we're ready to roll our dough. When you're ready to roll out your shortbread, you do that between 2 pieces of parchment paper. So what I find it easy to do is to take one large piece and fold it over. Put your dough in there, flatten it out a little bit. And the goal is to roll this to around about 1 centimetre thickness, which is just less than a half an inch. Take another look at that. That looks a bit better. Perhaps not the most even roll I've ever done, but carefully. Yeah, that don't look too bad. So, before you cut it, take a fork and prick the surface. It's just to stop it from splitting and cracking while it's cooking. Then we need to trim off some edges. Don't worry about that. We're going to re-roll this. We're not going to lose any. So all these trimmings we're going to get recombined, and I would say we can chop this into perhaps 3 like this. And we're going to put these into triangles. And carefully lift these onto our lined tray. So these are what I managed to get out of my my dough. Mainly I've cut them into triangles. This were the spare bits that will do as a taster. Yeah, want to make sure we don't throw anything away. So these go into the fridge now for, as I say, minimum 30 minutes. When you're ready to bake your shortbread, you want to preheat your oven to 325 Fahrenheit, which is 170 Celsius. We take them straight from the fridge. We put them in the oven and we're going to bake them for around about 20 minutes, but I would suggest you take a look after about 15 minutes, because when they start to change colour and start to get a golden brown to them, that's it, they're done. You don't want to see any dark brown on them. We don't want to overbake these. Alexa, set a timer for 15 minutes.
15 minutes, starting now.
So after around about 15 minutes, we take a look. They're not changing colour yet, so I'm going to give them another few minutes and check again. Okay, I'll give those a few minutes extra, and they are just starting to turn colour, starting to go brown. They are done and they can come out. So these have had around about 22 minutes. Maybe they're just a little bit thicker than what I've made before, but I hope that colour comes across. But you can just see on the edges how they're starting to turn colour. That means they're done. Certainly don't want to overbake these. And these are very, very delicate, very crumbly. So if you try and lift them off now while they're still hot, you'll probably break them. So we're going to allow them to cool for 2 or 3 minutes, and then they'll get some strength, and then we're going to put them onto a wire rack to fully cool before we coat them in the chocolate. So after a couple of minutes, these should be strong enough to move. That's the taster for the chef. While the shortbreads are cooling, I'm just going to gently melt my chocolate over some warm water. You want to choose a bowl that's large enough to allow you to get your shortbread in, because you're going to dip it in there. So I think they look pretty good. That weren't quite as messy as I thought it was going to be. Just a little bit of chocolate to clean up later, but yeah, I think they look okay.